It is already the summer season at this unique ski resort. It only gets snow for a few weeks in the year, but that's not what sets it apart from others. Its location does that, a suspended war zone.
People seem to forget when it's covered in white where they are. They think they're in Switzerland, you know, they're on vacation. They disassociate Helmon actually with being on a border.
We are in northern Israel on the south face of Mount Hermon in the Golan Heights, which has been under Israeli control since 1967. One of the theaters of the Six-Day War is visited by tourists today, but we are not given permission to film the military installations that survey the still Syrian-controlled side of the mountain.
Holding this area enables us to have this most beautiful, peaceful border in the world. It's also nicknamed the eyes of the country. It's the highest place in Israel. It goes without saying that it's important for the well-being of every Israeli. Druze, Jewish, Israeli, Christian, everybody who lives here has the peace to live in Israel with knowing that this area is protecting and overlooking everyone.
In the wake of the 1967 fighting, Israel occupied this part of Syria, and in 1981 Israel annexed the Golan Heights, although the international community does not recognize the annexation. A UN-supervised ceasefire line divides Golan from the rest of Syria. This year, in May, the Valley of Tears saw blood shed again for the 15th anniversary of the founding of the State of Israel, and worse in June on the anniversary of the 1967 war. Syrian and Palestinian protesters tried to cross the line. Israeli forces prevented them. Reports of the number killed were more than 20, said the Syrian authorities, while the Israelis said around 15. In a few days, the area had calmed down around the Arab Druze village of Majdal Shams, right next to the demarcation line. But the recent violence has a lasting effect. Normally this restaurant at the way into the village is busier. But its main customers are usually mostly Israeli tourists, and they haven't been coming in. The owner welcomes us warmly.
Tourism has dried up. We get the support of people from around here, but the tourists are afraid to come after what happened. Even though we are peaceful people, as you have seen, we're hospitable, and we know how to receive our guests.
Majdal Shams is the biggest of 5 Druze villages in the Golan Heights, with almost 20,000 people living in them. Some 30,000 Golan Druze fled the six-day combat in 1967. The Israelis then expelled 90,000 others and destroyed their villages. Many Druze saw the ceasefire line cut their land in two, cut them off from seeing family on the unoccupied side of Syria, except on rare occasions. Attachment to the land here is deeply felt. Mansour Awidat is the biggest apple and cherry producer in Majdal Shams.
I'm not earning enough to keep things going. There are so many costs to cover, for water, pesticides, manpower, lots of bills. It's expensive, but I can't just let the trees and our land go. For us, it means everything. This is Syrian soil, and we hope to fly the Syrian flag over it again.
The Druze orchard keepers say the cherry harvest has been poor, partly because of not getting enough water. Water is a strategic resource, controlled by the Israelis. There are around 30 Jewish settlements in the Golan Heights. One of them is Moshav Neve Ativ, very close to Majdal Shams. In Neve Ativ managed orchards, they say the harvesting has been going well.
We're expecting to finish with about between 200 to 300 tons of cherries. Normally it's just a third of it.
Menachem Baruch employs around 40 workers most of the time, but up to 100 to get the fruit crop in at peak times. A lot of them are from Golan Druze villages and other parts of the Galilee region. Not all of them like the idea of Israel returning the Golan to Syria.
If Golan is given back one day, it means Israel will get smaller. Things will get even harder than they are now, socially and in terms of urban organisation. From a work point of view, I'm against the restitution of Golan. It's a livelihood many, many people depend on. 90% of all the work around here is in the Golan.
The Neve Ativ farming community counts about 30 Israeli families living only a few hundred meters from Majdal Shams. Neve Ativ manages the skiing on Mount Hermon along with agriculture. This has meant increasing work possibilities for the Druze. The head of the Moshav says, raising their standard of living.
I believe, honestly, they prefer to stay here in Israel and not under Syrian government. They cannot say it because the small chance that maybe in peace agreement between Syria and Israel will withdraw from the Golan Heights, and then they will have the big problem. Israel is a democracy, they can say whatever they want. I don't believe that they can say that if they are under Syrian authorities.
Over the years, links have been knitted between Israeli settlers and the region's Druze. From the Israelis, we hear that relations are friendly, in abundant trade and other exchanges. But there's also abundant discrimination and restriction of basic freedoms, says the man in charge of the Arab Center for Human Rights in Majdal Shams.
If you look to Majdal Shams, you can compare it to any Palestinian refugee camp. Why it's constructed like this? Because no other choice. All the lands, it's for the settlements and settlement projects. The existence of a dictatorship regime in Syria should not be used as a pretext for keeping the occupation and the Israeli control over the Syrian Golan. The Golan is inalienable part from the Syrian land, and the sovereignty on the Golan, it belongs to the Syrian government.
In the debate over whether to revert to pre-1967 borders, an Israeli withdrawal from Golan has often been broached during indirect negotiations between the sides, talks in suspension today. The Israeli authorities say the stumbling block is excessive territorial demands from Damascus. This Israeli expert on the region identifies the question as one of the keys to resolving the Israeli-Arab conflict.
The Golan Heights is not Israeli territory, it's Syrian territory. We hold it only because of the past, because we have to hold it until it will be peace agreement. No doubt that peace means full withdrawal, no doubt about it. The price will be our personal price. We are about 4,000 or 5,000 families here in the Golan Heights. We shall pay the price. Not Israel.
Back to Majdal Shams. Undefined is the name of the hippest bar in the village. The term undefined is also on most of the Druze villagers' ID papers, those who have turned down the offer of Israeli citizenship. But the bartender who lived for a long time in the US doesn't take as firm a stand as some. He's considering leaving here again even though the visa procedure is a chore. More than looking for an identity, he wants peace of mind.
In some ways, nobody want to be Syrians, and in some ways, nobody want to be Israeli, because we're not. And in my case, you know, since I wasn't born in Syria, and I'm not sure if it's a good idea if I'll be a citizen of Syria, but at the same time, I'm not crazy about being an Israeli citizen. I am, if just for the fact I want to get a passport so I can travel around the world. Mainly, it's because I think eventually something's going to happen here, something bad. And I don't want to be a part of it. I want to raise my kids in a different environment.
Everyone living here dreams of a future where they won't be left undefined by the altercations and prevarications among the politicians of the Middle East and the West.